Welcome to Tales of a Wanderer, where silence has weight and the past still breathes beneath the ice. Tonight, we journey to the Ural Mountains, where 9 young souls vanished into the white, leaving only footprints and a question the world could never answer. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a story of courage, fear, and the unknown that waits in the cold.
On January 23rd, the team boarded a train heading north. They carried skis, tents, diaries, and cameras, so many photos, each filled with laughter and frozen breath. 9 friends, wrapped in wool and optimism. They sang folk songs, played mandolins, and teased each other about the cold. From the train, they transferred to trucks, then to sleds, and finally, when the roads ended, to their own boots and courage. By January 31st, they reached the edge of civilization, a small village called Vijay. There they wrote their last postcards home, ate their last warm meal, and stepped into the wilderness. The weather turned quickly. Winds screamed through the pines. Snow fell sideways, blinding, but their spirits were high. Each night they set up camp, writing in journals, cooking over tiny stoves, taking pictures that still survive today. Their laughter was real, their confidence unshaken. February 1st, 1959, the final ascent. That morning, the temperature dropped below minus 20 degrees Celsius. They packed their sleds, tightened their ropes, and began the climb toward the pass. Visibility was poor, a whiteout, sky and ground, merging into one endless gray. Dyatlov decided to stop early and set up camp on the slope of Kholat Syakhl, Mountain of the Dead. Why they chose to camp there, exposed and cold, remains one of the first mysteries. Some experts believe they wanted to practice camping on a mountain slope for future expeditions. Others think they simply lost sight of the forest below. That night, they cooked a small meal, took photographs, and wrote cheerful diary entries. One read, ... We now know that the snowmen exist. It was a joke, or at least it was supposed to be. Then, the last page ends. No more writing, no more laughter. When the group failed to return, their families raised the alarm. Weeks later, February 26th, a search team reached the area. What they found was chaos, frozen in time. The tent stood half buried in snow, slashed open from the inside. Inside were sleeping bags, boots, food, cameras, but no people. Bare footprints led away from the tent, 10 pairs of them, barefoot or in socks. They stretched across the snow, down toward the tree line. No one runs barefoot through snow at minus 30 degrees Celsius, unless something terrifying drives them. And whatever it was, left no tracks but theirs. February 26th, 1959. Nearly a month after the group vanished into the white wilderness, the first rescuers arrived at Kholat Syakhl. They expected exhaustion, frostbite, maybe a few lost hikers huddled in a cave. What they found was something else entirely. The tent stood half collapsed under snow, its orange fabric faded and torn. When they approached, they noticed the slashes, long, desperate cuts made from the inside, the kind someone would make if they were trying to escape, not enter. Inside, chaos, frozen mid-motion. Jackets, blankets, cameras, all still there. A small stove neatly assembled, but never lit. Dinner plates, untouched. 9 pairs of boots lined up in a perfect row. Waiting, but the people who owned them, had fled barefoot into the storm. No one could understand why. Searchers spread out, following the trail of footprints that led away from the tent. They descended toward the tree line, toward a black silhouette against endless white. At the base of the slope, they found the remains of a small fire. Beside it, two bodies, Yuri Krikonashenko and Yuri Doroshenko, both stripped to their underwear, their hands and feet burned, as though they had tried to warm them directly in the flames. The branches above them were broken nearly 5 meters high, as if someone had climbed or tried to climb the tree. Nearby, small bits of flesh and bark were stuck to the trunk, signs of panic, of fear. Their faces were twisted, but peaceful, as if frozen mid-breath. Between the forest and the tent, searchers discovered 3 more bodies, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. They seemed to have been crawling back toward the tent, their hands clutching the snow, their eyes fixed on the mountain. One had a fractured skull. Another's face was locked in an expression of exhaustion beyond words. Their positions almost aligned, as if they had died trying to reach safety, one after another, in the blizzard's endless howl. 5 were found that week. 4 were still missing. The remaining 4 weren't found until May, when the snow began to melt. Their bodies lay deep in a ravine, 75 meters from the cedar tree, buried beneath meters of ice. What the rescuers saw then changed everything. Their injuries were nothing like frostbite or exposure. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her eyes and part of her tongue. Zolotaryov's ribs were crushed inward, as if struck by an immense force, like a car accident. Nikolai Thibault Brignol's skull was split wide open, but there were no external wounds, no bruising, no blood on the snow. It was as though something had crushed them from the inside out. Their clothes carried strange traces, radiation measured higher than normal background levels, and one hiker's jacket glowed faintly under ultraviolet light. Soldiers collected samples, sealed them in lead boxes, and sent them to secret labs. The official reports never fully released. Among the recovered items was a damaged camera. When developed, its last image showed a blurred frame, bright orbs of light against the black sky. Some say it was a flashlight in motion, others a flare, and some whisper, something else entirely. Locals later reported glowing spheres over the mountains that same night. Even Soviet soldiers had logged similar sightings, but the official investigation dismissed them as military exercises. No further questions. When the case was closed, the Soviet authorities wrote, "The cause of death, an unknown compelling force." An answer that explained nothing and haunted everyone. Because 9 people, young, healthy, intelligent, had fled into a blizzard barefoot, tearing through their own tent in terror. And whatever they saw, whatever they heard that night, died with them in the snow. The world wanted answers. 9 young explorers, gone without reason, and only the mountain knew why. The first explanation, an avalanche. They said snow collapsed onto the tent, forcing them to flee barefoot into the storm. But the evidence refused to agree. The tent still stood, the slope too shallow, the snow above it untouched, and their footprints were calm, deliberate, as if they walked, not ran. If it was an avalanche, it was one that never left a mark. Others believed it was sound, invisible, deadly, infrasound, low vibrations from the wind between the peaks. It can twist the mind, cause panic, nausea, madness. Imagine 9 people waking in terror, hearts racing, running from something they couldn't see. The storm drowned their screams, and fear finished what the mountains started. But the strangest theory, whispered in Soviet corridors, was silence, military silence. Strange orbs in the sky that night, glowing metal dust in the snow, clothes tainted with radiation. The official report called it an unknown compelling force, a phrase that explained nothing and hid everything. The Mansi never go there. They call it Kholat Shachel, Mountain of the Dead. They say the 9 still wander those slopes, and when the wind howls through the pass, you can still hear laughter turning into screams.
The mountain keeps its secrets. The snow covers their names, and time buries the truth deeper with every storm. But when the wind rises across Kholat Shachel, some say you can still hear them. Laughter turning to screams, fading into silence. 9 hikers walked into the abyss and became a legend carved in ice.